Hi, I'm Zita, and today I will be going over personal protective equipment, or PPE. There are two kinds of precautions where you need to use PPEs. There's standard precaution, and then there's transmission-based precaution. Standard precautions are you need to first wash your hands for at least 15 seconds, and then you would need to wear gloves, a gown, mask, and protective eyewear depending on what your anticipated exposure. And for transmission-based precautions, there are actually three kinds. There is contact, airborne, and droplet precautions. So for contact precaution, after you wash your hands, you need to wear gloves and gown, and you would need to use those PPEs for patients with MRSA. And for airborne precaution, there's after you wash your hands, you need to wear gloves, gown, protective eyewear, and an N95 mask. Also, shoe coverings and hair covering. And for that precaution, you would use that for patients with TB. And for droplet precaution, you would wash your hands first and then wear gloves, gown, mask, and protective eyewear. And for that precaution, you use that for patients with influenza virus. So before PPEs are worn before you enter a patient's room. So first you would need to review the patient's chart to see what kind of precaution they're in. It will also say on the patient's door what kind of precaution they're in. So for today's demo, the patient will be in an airborne precaution. So that means they are in a negative pressure room where there's an ante-room, like a room before the room, where you can put on your PPEs. So after I wash my hands for at least 15 seconds, I put on the shoe cover first, and then after that is the hair cap, and then after that is the mask. After that, let's pretend this is a protective eyewear. So I'll put on the protective eyewear. And then the gown. So for the gown, make sure it doesn't touch the floor. You tie it around the neck. And the waist. After the gown, you put on the gloves. Make sure the gloves go over the cuffs of the gown for more protection. So now you can now put the patient's door and enter the patient's room. So after you've done the procedure, before you leave the room, you have to remove your PPEs. So first you remove the shoe covering and the gown. So for the gown, one side, one on the left. Then you roll it away from you. And then you dispose that in the biohazard bin. And then the next one would be the hair covering and the protective eyewear, and then the gloves. So remove the gloves. Then you dispose of the biohazard bin. And then you keep your mask until you're in the ante room. So in the ante room, once you put on a new pair of gloves, you go ahead and put on a new pair of gloves. I remove my mask and dispose that in a biohazard bin, and then I take off my gloves again. And after that, I wash my hands for at least 15 seconds. So that is how you put on PPE and then removing your PPE.